Mud splattered up my jeans as Tyler threw the folded papers at my boots. The rain had turned my driveway into a mess, but that wasn't what made my knees weak. It was the word printed across the top of those papers: eviction. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, Grandma," Tyler said, his voice shaking with something that sounded like pity but felt like poison. Behind him, a shiny pickup truck hummed in the rain, engine running. A real estate agent sat inside, already reaching for the for sale sign in his back seat. My world tilted. I bent down, hands trembling, and picked up the papers. My name was there, but so was his. The deed showed Tyler Lynn as the primary owner of my land. My land. The 40 acres where I'd buried my husband 15 years ago. "How?" I started, but my voice cracked. Tyler's smirk cut through the rain. "You signed everything over last year, remember? When I came to help?" I stared at him, rain dripping from my hair, soaking through my flannel shirt. Then I straightened my back and looked him dead in the eye. "You really think you know who owns this land?" "My name is Martha Lynn. I'm 53 years old, and this farm has been my entire life since the day I buried my husband, Frank, beneath the old oak tree at the edge of the north field. That tree had been our favourite spot. We'd sit there every evening, watching the sun melt into the horizon, talking about crops and dreams and growing old together. But Frank left too soon. Heart attack at 45. One minute he was laughing at something I'd said. The next, he was gone. The doctors said it was quick, painless. That was supposed to comfort me, but it didn't. Nothing did. After that, I threw myself into the farm. The work kept me busy, kept my hands moving when my mind wanted to stop. But the debt piled up faster than the crops could grow. Equipment broke down. The roof leaked. Property taxes climbed every year. Still, I refused to sell. This land held Frank's memory in every furrow, every fence post. Selling felt like betraying him all over again. The loneliness, though. That was the hardest part. Some nights I'd sit on the porch, staring at the empty chair beside me, and wonder if I was being stubborn or just stupid. Then Tyler called. It was last March, almost a year ago now. His voice sounded different, warmer than I'd heard in years. "Grandma, I've been thinking. You shouldn't be managing that farm alone. Let me come help." I cried that night. Relief flooded through me like spring rain after a drought. My grandson, coming home. Coming to help save what I loved most. He arrived 2 weeks later, all smiles and confidence. His truck was new, his clothes expensive. He talked about business plans and modern farming techniques, throwing around words like optimization and efficiency that made my head spin. "You're too old-fashioned, Grandma," he'd say, laughing like it was a joke. I laughed too, because I loved him, because I was grateful. But I should have noticed the red flags, the way he took over conversations, never letting me finish my thoughts. How he insisted on logging into my email to help organize things. The way he moved my important files from the kitchen drawer to his room, saying he'd keep everything safe. Small things. Things I overlooked because he was family, because I was desperate for help, because I wanted so badly to believe someone still cared. 2 months after Tyler arrived, he came to me with papers. "We need to finance new equipment," he explained, spreading documents across the kitchen table. "The tractor's dying, and we can't compete without upgrading." He was right about the tractor. It coughed black smoke every morning and stalled in the middle of ploughing. I'd been putting off the repair because I couldn't afford it. "Just sign here and here," Tyler said, pointing to highlighted lines. "It's routine paperwork. The bank needs your signature since you're the primary owner." I signed without reading closely. The pages were full of legal language that hurt my eyes, and Tyler seemed so confident, so sure. He was my grandson. Why would he lie? That night, after I'd gone to bed, I heard him on the phone in the living room. His voice carried through the thin walls. "Yeah, it's done," he said, laughing softly. "She signed everything. Give me 6 months, and I'll own half this dump." I lay frozen in bed, listening to his footsteps pace back and forth. My chest felt tight, like someone was pressing down on my ribs. But I told myself I'd misheard, that he was talking about something else, that my grandson wouldn't betray me. The feed supplier came by in early June, his face apologetic. "Martha, your payment bounced. 3rd time this month." I stared at him, confused. "That's impossible. I transferred money last week." He showed me his records. I rushed inside and logged into my bank account. The balance made my stomach drop, nearly empty. Thousands of dollars just gone. Tyler was in the barn when I found him. "Where's the money?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't even look up from his phone. "System error, probably. Banks mess up all the time. I'll call them tomorrow." But he never did. And when I tried to call myself, the bank representative said several large transfers had been authorized from my account. All legitimate, all signed for, all by me, apparently. My pride kept me quiet. I didn't tell anyone. But the fear started creeping in, cold and persistent, wrapping around my thoughts like frost on winter wheat. Late that week, I walked past the open barn door and heard Tyler's voice again. "Yeah, I'm telling you, she's clueless. Another month and I'll own half this place. Then we can sell to that developer." I clutched the doorframe, trembling. Eli Parker showed up on a Tuesday morning in July. He couldn't have been older than 28, with work-worn hands and honest eyes that reminded me of Frank. He drove an old Ford truck that had seen better days, nothing like Tyler's flashy vehicle. "Mrs. Lynn," he said, taking off his cap. "I'm Eli Parker. I run an agricultural business over in Harrison County. I'm looking to lease farmland for experimental organic crops." I stood on the porch, arms crossed, suspicious of strangers after everything with Tyler. "I'm not interested in leasing." "I understand," he said quickly. "But I pay fair rates, and I work the land myself. No middlemen, no corporate contracts, just honest farming." Something in his tone caught my attention. The way he talked about the soil like it mattered. The way he looked at my fields with respect, not dollar signs. "I'll think about it," I said finally. He handed me his card. "No pressure, Mom. I know good land when I see it, and yours is some of the best in 3 counties. After he left, I tucked his card into my apron pocket. I didn't throw it away, though part of me wondered why I kept it. Tyler's parents visited in late July. My son, Daniel, and his wife, Carolyn. They arrived in their clean sedan, hugging me at the door with smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Over dinner, Tyler painted himself as the hero. "Grandma couldn't manage alone," he explained, his voice dripping with false concern. "The farm was falling apart. I dropped everything to come help." Daniel nodded along, believing every word. When I mentioned my worries about the finances, about the missing money, Carolyn touched my hand gently. "You're just tired, Martha. Tyler's doing wonderful work here." "Maybe you're forgetting things," Daniel added. "It happens at your age." The words hit like a slap. My own son, calling me forgetful. Dismissing my fears like I was a confused child. They left after dessert. Tyler waved from the porch as their taillights disappeared down the road. Then he turned to me, and for just a second, I saw something cold in his eyes. "They believe me, not you." he said quietly. Remember that. I went to bed that night feeling more alone than I had since Frank died, gaslit by my own blood, cornered in my own home. I found the old recorder in the barn 2 days later. Frank had used it years ago to leave himself voice notes about crop rotations and equipment repairs. I'd kept it out of sentimentality, but now it seemed like fate. I started carrying it in my apron pocket, pressing record whenever Tyler took phone calls. I felt guilty at first, like I was doing something wrong. But then I remembered the empty bank account, the papers I'd signed without understanding, the cold look in his eyes. Late one night in August, I sat in the dark kitchen, headphones on, listening to the day's recordings. Most were boring, mundane conversations. But then I heard it. Tyler's voice, sharp and clear. Once it's in my name, she's out. I'll bulldoze the house first. The developer wants empty land. Tears streamed down my face. I played it 3 more times just to be sure. Each time the words cut deeper. My grandson. The boy I'd taught to fish, to ride a bike, to plant seeds in spring. He wanted to erase me, to destroy everything Frank and I had built. The betrayal wasn't a knife anymore. It was a canyon opening beneath my feet. I dug Eli Parker's card out of my apron pocket the next morning. My hands shook as I dialed his number. Mr. Parker, it's Martha Lynn. Can we meet? We met at a diner 20 miles from my farm. I told him everything. About Tyler, the missing money, the forged documents I was starting to suspect existed. About feeling trapped and alone. Eli listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in the booth, his expression serious. Mrs. Lynn, I think I can help, but you need to trust me. I don't trust easily anymore, I admitted. I wouldn't either, he said. But here's what I'm proposing. A formal partnership. You give me half the land's yield, and I provide financial backing plus legal protection. We file everything properly, notarized and registered with the county. My heart pounded. That would lock Tyler out. If he forged documents, yes, he can't sell what he doesn't fully own. We met with a local attorney the next day. The partnership papers were drawn up, signed, notarized, and filed with the county clerk. It was official, legal, protected. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Tyler noticed the changes in September. New irrigation equipment appeared in the south field. The fences got repaired. The crops looked healthier, more organized. He found me in the garden one afternoon, his face suspicious. Where'd the money come from for all this? I smiled sweetly, handing him a glass of iced tea I'd just poured. Found some savings I'd forgotten about. His eyes narrowed, but he didn't push. He thought I was too simple to lie well. That was his first mistake. Over the next few weeks, I watched him closely. He made more phone calls, spent more time on his laptop. I kept recording, kept gathering evidence. Eli checked in regularly, making sure I was safe. For the first time in a year, I was holding cards Tyler didn't know existed. The power balance had shifted, even if he couldn't feel it yet. I slept a little better those nights, knowing I wasn't completely defenseless anymore. The farm felt almost peaceful again, like it was breathing easier. Tyler called a family meeting in October. He arranged it like a business presentation, setting up his laptop in the dining room, making coffee, acting official. Daniel and Carolyn drove in for it. Tyler stood at the head of the table, playing the concerned grandson perfectly. I've been reviewing the finances, he began, clicking through a slideshow. Grandma's been mismanaging the farm. Look at these numbers. He showed charts and graphs that meant nothing to me, but they looked professional, convincing. She's endangering our future wealth, Tyler continued. The land's value is dropping because of her poor decisions. We need to take action before she loses everything. Daniel frowned, looking at me. Mum, is this true? I opened my mouth to defend myself, but Tyler cut me off. She doesn't understand modern agriculture. She's stuck in the past. Carolyn nodded sympathetically. Martha, maybe it's time to let Tyler handle things officially. I looked at their faces, all of them believing his lies, my own family, choosing him over me. I stood slowly, pushing my chair back. Excuse me, I said quietly. I need some air. I walked out to the oak tree, leaving them inside. But my eyes weren't filled with defeat anymore. They were filled with steel. I called Eli that evening. He's moving faster than we thought. We met at the property line between our farms. The October sunset painted everything gold and red, beautiful despite the ugliness happening around us. He's going to try something big soon, Eli said. We need to be ready. I told him everything from the family meeting, how Tyler was painting me as incompetent, how my own son believed him. Mrs. Lynn, Eli said gently, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Are you sure you want to keep fighting? I looked toward the oak tree where Frank's ashes rested. I've already lost my husband. I won't lose what we built together. Eli nodded. Then we handle the legal side carefully. Document everything. When Tyler makes his move, we'll be ready. I walked back to the farmhouse as darkness fell. The lights were on inside, and I could see Tyler through the window, laughing at something on his phone. I'm not done fighting for what's mine, I whispered to the wind, to Frank, to myself. The oak tree's leaves rustled in response, like Frank was telling me to stay strong. Eli called me 2 weeks later, his voice urgent. Martha, I found something. Can you come to my office? I drove to Harrison County, my stomach tight with anxiety. Eli's office was a small building behind his barn, cluttered with farming equipment catalogues and soil samples. He spread documents across his desk. Tyler forged several transfers. He took your signature from legitimate paperwork you'd signed years ago, scanned it, and digitally placed it on new documents. I stared at the papers, seeing my signature on deeds and transfers I'd never agreed to. How is that possible? Digital manipulation, Eli explained. He probably used that first equipment financing you signed, took your signature and reused it. My hands clenched into fists. Can we prove it? Yes. The timestamps don't match, and the notary seals are fake. I've already contacted the county clerk. They're investigating. Fury burned through me, my own grandson, stealing my legacy piece by piece. But underneath the anger was something else, determination. What do we do now? I asked. Eli looked at me seriously. We wait. Let him think he's winning. When he tries to sell, that's when we spring the trap. I nodded. Timing is everything. Exactly. Tyler announced the sale at dinner in early November. He'd made my favorite pot roast, acting cheerful and generous. I should have known something was coming. Grandma, I have amazing news, he said, pouring himself wine. I found a developer willing to pay top dollar for the farm. We're talking fortune-level money. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. What? The land's worth more than we thought? He continued, grinning. We can sell, split the money, and you can retire somewhere nice. Maybe a condo in town. He raised his glass like we were celebrating. I stared into my wine, silent. My heart was breaking, but strangely, I felt calm. When? I asked quietly. Papers are ready. We can close by Christmas. He smiled wider. Think of it, Grandma. No more worrying about crops or debt. You'll be free. Free. The word tasted like poison. He wanted to free me from the only thing I had left of Frank, but I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded slowly and took a sip of wine. Inside, though, I was planning, waiting. The trap was almost ready. Tyler started packing up my things the next week. He brought boxes from town, stacking them in the living room. "Just helping you prepare," he said cheerfully, like he was doing me a favor. I watched him sort through my life. He tossed photo albums aside carelessly, barely glancing at the pictures of Frank and me on our wedding day. My grandmother's quilt got shoved into a box marked "Donate." When he picked up Frank's favorite coffee mug, the one with the chipped handle that I still used every morning, and threw it in the trash, something inside me cracked, but I didn't let it show. I quietly took the mug back out after Tyler left the room, washed it, and set it back in the cupboard. I also took the copy of the original deed from the drawer, the real one, from before Tyler's forgeries. I folded it carefully and hid it in my apron pocket. The emotional pain peaked that night. I sat alone in my bedroom, surrounded by half-packed boxes, and let myself cry. Not because I was giving up, but because it hurt to see how little my own family valued me. Tomorrow, though, things would start changing. Eli called me the next morning. "Tyler just filed the transfer paperwork with the county. He's trying to push the sale through before Thanksgiving." My heart raced. "Can he do that?" "No," Eli said firmly. "He can't legally sell because our partnership contract locks half the land under my business name." The county clerk flagged it immediately. Relief washed over me. "So he doesn't know yet?" "Not yet. He will soon, though. The developer's attorney will discover the partnership when they run the title search." I gripped the phone tighter. "How long do we have?" "Maybe a week. 10 days at most." Eli paused. "Martha, are you ready for this? Once it goes public, there's no going back." I thought about Frank, about the oak tree, about 40 acres of memories Tyler wanted to bulldoze. "I'm ready," I said. Set the trap. Tyler stormed into the house 3 days later. I was in the kitchen, kneading bread dough, when I heard his truck screech to a stop outside. He burst through the door, waving papers. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. I wiped flour from my hands calmly. "What's wrong?" "This eviction notice," he snapped, throwing it on the counter. "The developer's attorney sent it. Says I need to vacate immediately because of some partnership issue." I picked up the papers, reading slowly. The official county seal stared back at me. "Eviction notice?" I read aloud. "For Tyler Lynn." His face turned red. "This is your land, Grandma. You signed it over to me. Remember?" I looked at him, my expression unreadable. "Did I?" "Don't play games," he hissed. "You know you did." I set the papers down carefully. "Tyler, I think you need to get off my property until I speak with my partner." He laughed, but it sounded hollow. "What partner?" My quiet smile must have sent chills down his spine, because he stopped laughing. A truck pulled into the driveway 20 minutes later. Eli stepped out, followed by Mr. Harrison, the attorney who'd helped us file the partnership papers. Tyler's face drained of color when he saw them. "Who are you?" "Eli Parker," Eli said calmly, extending his hand. Tyler didn't shake it. "I'm Mrs. Lynn's business partner, and this is our attorney." Mr. Harrison opened his briefcase, pulling out documents. "Mr. Lynn, these papers show that Mrs. Martha Lynn entered into a legal partnership 6 months ago, giving Mr. Parker co-ownership of half this property's assets and decision-making power." "That's impossible," Tyler whispered. "It's filed with the county," Mr. Harrison continued, "which means your attempted sale is void. You can't sell property you don't fully own. The real estate agent's truck was still idling in the driveway. He rolled down his window, yelled something about being misled, and drove off fast. Tyler stared at the papers, then at me. You planned this. No, I said quietly. I protected what was mine. Eli stepped forward. We also have evidence of forged documents and fraudulent transfers. The county prosecutor is reviewing the case. Tyler's legs seemed to give out. He sat hard on the porch steps, head in his hands. You ungrateful, Tyler started, but his voice broke. I came here to help you. You came here to steal from me, I said, my voice trembling but steady. I have recordings, Tyler. Every phone call, every conversation about bulldozing my house. His face went pale. You recorded me? I protected myself, I corrected, because you took my love for granted. He stood, anger replacing shock. You're manipulative. I'm not as naive as you thought, I interrupted, meeting his eyes. That was your mistake. Eli touched my elbow gently. Mrs. Lynn, let's go inside. I let him guide me toward the house. Behind me, Tyler shouted something else, but I didn't turn around. The farm felt peaceful for the first time in months, like the land itself was breathing easier. Tyler's truck roared to life. Gravel sprayed as he peeled out of the driveway. I watched from the kitchen window as his taillights disappeared. My hands shook as I poured myself coffee into Frank's chipped mug. But they weren't shaking from fear anymore. They were shaking from relief. The forgery evidence became public within days. Eli had quietly shared the documentation with the county clerk's office, who passed it to the prosecutor. Tyler's parents called me that weekend, their voices strained. Mum, what have you done? Daniel demanded. I stopped your son from stealing my farm, I said calmly. He's facing fraud charges because of you. He's facing consequences because of himself, I corrected. I didn't forge documents. He did. Carolyn got on the line, crying. How can you be so heartless? He's family. Family doesn't steal, I replied. Family doesn't manipulate and lie. The developer withdrew his offer officially. The local paper ran a small story about attempted property fraud. Tyler's name was mentioned. His parents were humiliated. But I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just went back to my fields, checking the winter wheat Eli had helped me plant. The earth was cold, but alive, ready for spring. The farm was safe. That was all that mattered. November turned to December. Eli and I worked side by side, repairing fences and preparing equipment for spring planting. He taught me about organic farming, and I taught him about this land's history. One cold afternoon, we stood by the oak tree. I told him about Frank, about the evenings we'd spent here. Do you miss your grandson? Eli asked gently. I thought about it honestly. I miss who I thought he was, but that person maybe never existed. Will you let him come back? No, I said firmly. I love him, but I can't trust him, and I won't let him near this land again. Eli nodded, understanding. We worked in comfortable silence after that, the kind of quiet that feels like healing. The farm was coming back to life. New equipment, better crops, careful planning. It felt like Frank and I were starting over, except now I had a different partner, one who respected the land and me. Some evenings, I'd sit on the porch and feel almost content. The loneliness wasn't completely gone, but it felt manageable now, purposeful instead of crushing. Carolyn showed up alone 2 days before Christmas. I saw her car pull up and almost didn't answer the door. She stood on the porch, crying before she even spoke. Martha, please, you're destroying him. I let her inside, made tea, and waited. "He's lost his job," she sobbed. "His friends won't talk to him. He's depressed, barely eating." My heart ached hearing it, but I kept my voice steady. "How could you do this to him?" she asked. I set my mug down carefully. "Carolyn, I didn't ruin him. I just stopped letting him ruin me." "That's not—" "He forged legal documents," I interrupted. "He stole money from my accounts. He planned to bulldoze my home. Those are his choices, not mine." She stared at me, tears streaming. "You're his grandmother. You're supposed to forgive." "I do forgive him," I said quietly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean letting him hurt me again." She left without finishing her tea. I watched her drive away, feeling both sad and resolute. Some relationships can't survive betrayal. That wasn't my failure. It was just truth. The fraud charges became public record in January. Tyler was formally charged with document forgery and attempted theft. Local news picked up the story when they connected it to the nearly successful farm sale. A reporter called, asking for my side. I declined. This wasn't about revenge or publicity. It was about protecting what was mine. But then the story took an unexpected turn. A regional agricultural magazine contacted Eli, wanting to feature our partnership. "Local widow revives century farm through innovative partnership," the headline would read. Eli asked if I'd agree to it. I hesitated at first, but then thought about other people in my situation, other elderly farmers being taken advantage of. "Yes," I told him. "Maybe our story can help someone else." The article came out in February, with photos of the farm, quotes from both of us. It talked about sustainable farming and protecting family land. It mentioned Tyler only briefly, focusing instead on resilience and partnership. The response was overwhelming. Letters arrived from across the state, people sharing similar stories. I wasn't alone. That realization healed something inside me I didn't know was broken. Tyler showed up one last time in early March, exactly a year after he'd first arrived. He looked thin, tired, broken in ways that had nothing to do with his body. I was by the oak tree, planting early flowers around Frank's memorial stone. I heard the car door close but didn't turn around immediately. "Grandma," Tyler said, his voice barely a whisper. I stood slowly, brushing dirt from my knees. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 6 months. "I'm sorry," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I was greedy and stupid, and I hurt you. I'm so sorry." I studied his face, looking for manipulation, but all I saw was genuine regret. "I forgive you," I said simply. "Not for you, for me, because holding on to anger was poisoning me." He nodded, crying harder. Can we try again?" I shook my head gently. "No, Tyler. You'll have to build something of your own now, somewhere else. Without me. Grandma, please?" "I love you," I said, and meant it. "But I can't trust you, and this farm deserves better." I walked past him toward the house. He called my name once more, but I didn't look back. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes it means protecting yourself, even when it hurts. His car started a few minutes later. I watched from the kitchen window as he drove away, knowing it was the last time. Spring arrived in full force. The fields exploded with new growth, green and vibrant under the April sun. Eli and I worked dawn to dusk, planting, planning, building something sustainable. A new sign appeared at the property entrance, Lynn and Parker Farms, established 1994, reborn 2024. I stood looking at it one morning, work gloves on, dirt under my fingernails. The wind rustled through the wheat field, carrying the smell of fresh earth and possibility. 40 acres of memories, yes, but also 40 acres of future. I thought about Frank, about how he'd probably laugh at all this drama. He'd always said I was stronger than I knew. Maybe he was right. Tyler would face his consequences and hopefully learn from them. My son and his wife would either come around or they wouldn't. Either way, I'd be okay, because I'd learned something crucial through all this pain. Losing my family's approval hadn't broken me. It had set me free. Free to build something real. Free to trust carefully. Free to protect what I'd worked for without guilt. The oak tree's shadow stretched across the field as the sun climbed higher. I walked toward it, coffee mug in hand, and sat in my usual spot. "We did it, Frank," I whispered to the wind. "We saved our home." The wheat rustled in response, golden and alive, full of promise. And for the first time in over a year, I felt completely, genuinely at peace.